Welcome to the Intake Podcast. We are your hosts, Carson Miller and Travelle McManus, and this is the podcast where we dive into the media shaping our world today.
And for this week's episode, we're going to do a review on Daredevil Born Again, introduce a new segment in Audiofiles and Jumbotron, and set our new Outtake goals. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends.
Awesome. So we had an outtake last week, which you set, and I did not know what you were setting the outtake as last week, and it was a really good one. So we came up with a list of 10 different media formats that we have to choose our top 3, and we lose the rest. We lose the other 7 till the end of time if we had to choose the top 3. So that list is movies, TV, YouTube, podcasts/radio, books/audiobooks, print media, which would include newspaper, articles, magazines, anything that's kind of a written format, music, sports, video games, and social media. So those were the categories that we had to choose from, and we had to choose our top 3. So, Travelle, what were the 3 that you chose to keep, and which ones are you getting rid of?
Okay, so this was so hard. But, well, there was 2 that was not hard, and that was podcasts and TV. Podcast is just, it's become my new medium. Like I don't listen to music much anymore.
Right.
It gets me through the day. It gets me through, like, my day is full of just like mundane tasks, very effortless tasks. And so it just gets me through executing on those things. I drive a lot. I have to travel a lot. So it keeps me sane. So I cannot imagine a world without podcasts anymore. And then TV, as I've gotten older, TV has become my outlet that I really enjoy. I was a big movie guy growing up, but as my time has become more limited, I do just enjoy how quick and easy it is to just be able to, watch one episode. I love anime. Anime is usually 20, 25 minutes, so I can get 1 or 2 episodes in during a lunch break or during just random times that I have moments for that. And then the last one was YouTube. And this one was just one that I struggled with because it was like YouTube, sports, video games. That was like that last 3. And I just love YouTube. I love learning on YouTube. It is, as a videographer, I just get a lot of inspiration off YouTube.
Yeah.
So I just can't really picture a world without YouTube as well. So that's kind of that. And that was kind of that was what this was about. So,
right.
So yeah. So video games was tough. Video games was originally on that list, but then when I was thinking about my life and how little productivity I would get done if video games was like one of the top 3 means I only had, I just couldn't do it. And so I think every aspect of my life, my relationship, everything would be in turmoil if video games was one of the only, like, it was video games, TV, and something else. Like, it would just be bad. So I got rid of TV. Sports, that was a hard one. That was a really, really hard one. But as far as just like my day-to-day, every single day, those were my 3.
Okay. I think I have a loophole for you. If I'm allowed to maybe cheat, you can decide. Audience at home, you can decide if this is cheating. Some of these were super easy for me, super easy to let go of. I can let go of video games. I can let go of social media. I can let go of music, print media. I can let all that go. So there was only a few left for me: sports, books, podcasts, YouTube, TV, and movies. And then it got really hard. Like, those first 4, easy to let go of. When it comes to the podcasts, I'm with you. They get me through doing dishes. Our families kind of live far away. I think your families do as well, where there's long drives, and podcasts are what get me through those long drives. And I just really enjoy that format. So what the loophole is that a lot of podcasts have a YouTube version where they record a video and upload it. So I am not choosing podcasts. I would miss a few podcasts, and I think I can live with that. But some of the ones that are my daily drivers are the ones that I really enjoy are on YouTube. So I'm choosing YouTube as my first one.
Okay.
So you might be able to fit video games back in there. I don't know if Bailey
Yeah.
would like that, but
I would put sports. So I would,
sports.
so
Okay.
going off that, and I like that. I like that. And
Yeah.
I agree with you. So, cause I mean, all of my podcasts are on YouTube.
Mm.
So I would take out podcasts and then I will put in sports.
Put in
So
sports.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's my second one
list.
too. I need to have sports in my life. Um, I enjoy playing sports. I enjoy watching sports. I watch, I watch professional disc golf on YouTube. So I need to have YouTube there as well. I love the NFL, MLB. I'd probably watch more sports because I'm letting go of TV. I would let TV go and choose movies as my third. So
Interesting. Okay. I can see that.
I thought about this, and I don't think I can lose the theater experience for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Oof.
That
I didn't think about that. I thought about
Man.
movies at home.
Yeah.
I think I still would pick because I'm a homebody, so I think I still would pick TV over
Yeah.
that. But that would still be a very tough thing to give up.
Yeah, I love going to the movie theater. I'll go to the movies by myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
I will happily go see a movie by myself. And so I think I have to choose movies. YouTube kind of helps me with some workarounds, loopholes. People can tell us if we're cheating or not. But YouTube and then sports. Sports have just been in my life for so long. I don't know if I could
Yeah.
not watch them anymore. And I think I could really let go of TV. I can see a world where TV is not there. There's not. I love watching TV shows, but the way TV is right now, where we're getting seasons that are 3 years apart, we're having shows that start and never finish. There's some of that has caused some, I don't know, disgruntled nature with me that I'm just like, I can let that one go. The one I'm ashamed of is letting go of books. I was raised by a librarian and an educator. My wife is a librarian, and I would let those go, even though that hurts my soul a little bit and hurts theirs for sure. But
I know.
so my top three: YouTube, movies, and sports. Those would be the three I would choose for the rest of my life.
I get that. Yeah, no, I know. I feel, yeah, books was like my guilty, like I felt guilty by how little guilt I felt getting rid of it because I
Right.
should be. And I enjoy reading. Like I love my self-help books. I love books about business, but it's just one that I know
Yeah.
on his face with all the other options. It's just not going to make that top three. So
No, and I think that's okay. We can be who we are, Travelle, and accept ourselves. So that was our review of the outtake. This is going to come back into play at the end of the episode, so make sure to stick with us here. And we are going to dive into our intake. So I'll let you kick it off for Daredevil.
Yes. So we have Daredevil Born Again, which is the Disney, not remake, but continuation of
Yeah.
the Netflix series that had 3 series long, started 10 years ago. And we're getting a new chapter. I guess I should go ahead and throw our spoiler reminders for anyone that has not seen the first 2 episodes. It's going to be really hard to have a conversation about
Right.
the opening without talking about what happened in like the first 10 minutes. So
Right.
if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, come back and join in on the conversation. But yeah, I mean, it is. So we just got our first 2 episodes, so not a lot of meat on the bone, but enough to kind of see the direction and the story that Disney wants to tell with this story.
Right.
And yeah, I have been so, ever since I finished the first 2 episodes, I finished it the night it came out, and I was like, I need to talk to Carson. Like, I'm so curious what your perspective, because for context for our listeners who maybe didn't listen to last week's episode, Carson has not seen the Netflix series, but I have. And I love the Netflix. I watched them as they were coming out back in college. And I tried to get through all of them before this show came back out, but there's so many episodes and they're long episodes. But I have a sense of the Netflix series opposed to this series, and I just want to know, for someone who has not seen that, what were your thoughts on the first 2 episodes?
So I will clarify. I have not seen a lot of the Netflix. I think I watched the first 6 episodes of the first season.
Okay.
And just tapped out. Not because I didn't like it. I would say I did like it. But when it comes to darker themes and darker TV shows, if I don't binge it and finish it, I'm more likely to drop it than if it's something that's lighter or more comedic in tone. I'm more likely to stick with that. So I
Gotcha.
just got busy. I think I don't know what I was doing, but busy and let it go and never followed back up with it. So because it is a time commitment, like you said, like
Yeah.
by the time I wanted to rewatch it, I would have had to rewatch the 6 hours I've already seen and invest that time back in. And at the time, I didn't really want to do that. After
Yeah.
watching these first two episodes, I kind of want to do that. I
Okay.
did like the first two episodes. I will
Okay.
say I liked episode two more than I liked episode one, but
Okay.
I still liked both. I think that for me, the beginning, and I guess I'll go ahead and share what happened, it was not as shocking to me because I'm not attached
Mm.
to the characters that were there. So we open up
Mm.
episode one with Matt, Foggy, and Karen. Foggy and Karen are like, I guess, his two best friends or work
Yes.
associates from the Netflix
Mm-hmm.
series. And I knew that much. I have bits and pieces of the Netflix series. I'm aware of it. And so I know that they're friends. And within the first 10 minutes, there is an attack, and Matt's best friend Foggy is shot and killed out on a city street. And Matt jumps into the suit and goes and starts to take out the bad guy. And I didn't have a very big reaction because I'm not attached to that character. So I
Yeah.
think that will be probably the biggest difference between us is that
Yes.
that didn't really affect me. Was it a big
Yeah.
deal to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and that was the first thought was this is interesting because they're already doing something that's going to not divide the experience, but you're just going to get almost two completely different reactions.
Right.
Because you're going to have the people who are like, "Who is this guy? Why is this?" I mean, like we know this is his friend, we know that this person is important to him, but
Right.
for those who have more context, like, and I was still with you, like I was not surprised because based on what they were marketing this story to be, it seemed like they wanted to tell a new story. And
Right.
if Daredevil was going to go through this dark saga, it was going to have to be without Foggy and Karen
Right.
because of what they represented in the Netflix shows. They were his conscience. They were the ones
Yeah.
who always pulled him back, always kept him grounded, which is why it was so interesting because it was like, okay, y'all are doing this soon and knowing that this was going to take a dark turn because of that, because of
Right.
what Foggy represented. So it like I mean I was upset. Like it was hard, it was heartbreaking. I did think that this like that whole opening sequence, didn't love it because there was so much emotional weight to it. I just don't think it scared me. Like that was my initial thought after that whole first act was done in episode one, because it was supposed to be this very emotional, hard moment, and I
Right.
just think a lot of the choreography of the fight, the way they shot it, like all of these different things, kind of took you away from that. Or at least that was my experience.
Yeah.
And part of it was because I was probably comparing it to how it was shot and how they went about things in the Netflix show. And so like in the Netflix, it was like, like it was very tight, those apartment brawls. And then also this was 10 years ago. So this was like, when Age of Ultron and Ant-Man came out.
Right.
And so this just had a different tone. And it kind of matched that in the first scene with it being darker. But the fight scenes were just very low scale and that they were just very tight. You felt cramped when you were watching them, and it worked because this
Yeah.
wasn't like, like we're kind of spoiled and we see worlds exploding and all this crazy stuff. It was
Right.
like, oh, here's Daredevil in an alleyway fighting some robbers, or in an apartment hallway fighting guys in just very tight quarters. And so the way that they did this whole like panning through the apartment and things like that, it just
Right.
it just wasn't the same. And then the way that the Netflix series would use his like special senses that he had from being deaf or
Yeah.
being blind,
Yeah.
like it just wasn't, like that's tough with him fighting and being able to and continue to try to listen to his friend's heartbeat.
Right.
I've just seen Netflix execute on those kind of things better when it came to like how he uses his senses, how it carried out in the middle of the fight, like to those things. Did not
Right.
love, and Netflix did not get this down either when they got to a point where he was kind of scaling up buildings like
Yeah.
like a cheap Spider-Man imitation.
Right.
But they did it was so bad
Yeah.
in that in that scene, and I was like, oh no, it scared me. Like
in the new show.
Yes, like I took a I was taking notes. I was watching, and I was like, "Oh no!"
I did not.
But it redeemed itself. Like I'm not
Yeah.
like that. That was it. Just since it was the opening scene, that
Yeah.
was my interpretation of it. But
Right.
how did you?
I did not enjoy the opening scene.
Okay,
I had no
okay,
emotional attachment to it. I thought the
yeah,
fight scene was not great. I
yeah.
honestly, I was waiting for him to wake up from a dream. I'll be honest. I like that's the vibe I got from it was okay, we're in some dream world or something. I don't know because it didn't feel real to me. It didn't feel like what I had seen of the Netflix show. I
Yeah.
agree that the fight scene it was very weird. The
Yes.
like I love the idea of one shot takes where it looks like it's all one shot. I think those are really cool. It did
Mm-hmm.
not work here.
No.
And I it seems like his powers have been elevated. From what I know of the Netflix series, the whole scaling the buildings with the Spider-Man nunchucks or whatever it was, like when that happened, I
Yeah.
I almost I don't want to say I almost turned it off. That thought crossed my mind though
Yeah.
of I no this is dumb. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get it. I thought that I mean I don't know how many knife wounds he had, but it was
Yeah.
getting close to 20
Yeah.
and
Just
I
like
was like
lined up on his chest.
right, and that I was like I know he's has powers or is powerful, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
And so honestly the best thing about that was Foggy's death. And I don't mean to say that and like I'm happy that that happened, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely it was going to make this different. And they're going to tell a
Yeah.
different story than they had before, and I was okay with that. And so when we have a 1 year time jump from that as we continue the episode, I thought that's where it really started to get interesting for me. So it wasn't a great
Mm-hmm.
start. Honestly, it felt like it was a reshoot or the show went
Yeah.
through a whole bunch of reshoots and it may have been the stuff that they scrapped before. Like there was some
Yeah.
of it, it didn't feel right to me. But as we go through episode 1 and then go into episode 2, probably my biggest other problem was that as a person who has not watched the Netflix show and a person who I did watch Hawkeye, and I liked Hawkeye because Kingpin shows up in that the Hawkeye TV series. And then I did not watch Echo, which Kingpin is also in. Getting
Mm-hmm.
caught up on his story, we were thrown into it, and there
Yeah.
wasn't like it felt like you had to be in the know to know what was
Yeah.
going on. And I am not in the know. I know that he was in the Netflix series, survives. He's in Hawkeye, gets shot in the face, skipped Echo, and then jumps into Daredevil. And all of a sudden, he's benevolent and wants to do good for the city. And that was kind of jarring for somebody that isn't as in the weeds on
Yes.
the shows. So, how do
Mm-hmm.
you feel? What are you? What have you? What has your tracking of his story been through Netflix and up until now?
It definitely is sloppy because he, out of everyone in this show, he's the one that we've had the most time with in since Disney has taken this IP. And so, we saw him in where we only got like a very short snippet of Daredevil and Echo, like very short, like one little fight scene in Echo.
Right.
It had like a half an episode in She-Hulk, but
Yep.
nothing as far as like character arcs. Like we don't know, like I don't even know when those took place in
Right.
Daredevil's. Like, was this before? Was it before Foggy's death or after Foggy's death? I don't really know. But
Yeah.
with Kingpin, like we have seen him a lot. He's pivotal in Echo, and I have seen Echo, and it's really good. But I don't think, and this is the problem with the MCU right now, is I just don't think they did a good job of catching viewers up with that. Because even though I've seen Echo, it's been a while. So
Right.
I forgot that he was running for mayor. Like I completely forgot about that. I forgot all about his relationship with his wife and like the role that she played in the business when he stepped down and all of those things. I think that it was covered. I don't know when or where, what show, when, or was it even before, like in the Netflix series? I don't remember because he was in jail for a time period. I think that is when she kind of took over some of that. And so, but yeah, it just wasn't. It was for someone who loves Kingpin, who like, because I mean, in 2015 he was Thanos before Thanos in my eyes,
Right.
like where you had MCU that was very buttoned up, very clean, to have a guy who was just unpredictable, and
Right.
you every scene you thought he's the only one that's going to probably come out of this room alive. Like it was just he does an amazing job. So
Right.
I'm really invested in this character, and I really want him to be executed well. And I think
Right.
that they are. I think they started off rough with a lot
Mm.
of things, but they very quickly throughout episode
Yeah.
1 and really into episode 2 get us. And I think part of that was just trying to get us away from the Netflix story into the story that they want to tell.
Yep.
Didn't execute that super well, but I think they're working on something, and
Right.
I'm here for it. So
Yeah. I think we talked about bridge seasons last time and how I'm fearful that Severance season 2 is a bridge season or how Stranger Things season 2 is a bridge season. This was a bridge episode
yeah,
1 of Daredevil. And I'm more okay with that. I'll give you an episode to bridge it because it's a
yeah,
pretty big span to jump. Netflix, a little bit in Hawkeye, a little bit in She-Hulk, a little bit in Echo, and then we're into a brand new story. So there's some
yeah,
grace given there. And so if it is a bridge episode, that's fine. And just make sure episode 2 is good. And episode 2 was good. I
it was
loved
good.
to see where they were going with Matt's story, where we get to see him do some lawyer things. We get to see, is Cherry, the private detective, is he in the Netflix show or is this a brand new character for this?
I I could not tell you. I
Okay.
think he is a brand. I'm pretty sure he's a brand new character,
Okay.
but I
So
could be wrong.
he has a person, a former detective or police officer who's doing private work for him now as a lawyer, trying to, you know, gather information, gather intel on people. And so I really enjoyed that character. I enjoyed that we got, I don't know, kind of an angrier, more lost version of Daredevil where it wasn't, he wasn't virtuous necessarily. He was going on his own agenda, and he meets this person that is in trouble with the cops, and he still has that goodness in him because he's like, man, I gotta help
Yeah.
this guy. But the way he's going about it is much different than I think I've seen before, at least. And so to
Yes.
see some of that play out in that episode, I think the character's name is White Tiger, and
Yes.
so it's a guy who was caught beating up some cops and accidentally kills one of them. He was trying to be a good Samaritan, save somebody else, beat up on some cops, one of them dies, and now he's in jail. But he's also a vigilante on the side. And so that complicates the law case that Matt has picked up with this guy. And to see him navigate that as a vigilante himself, I think is going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And that is what I loved about the story.
Yes, and there is some like politics in this involved as well. Because I think we kind of I can't. It was at the end of season 1 or episode 1, which is where I knew okay we're on the right track of that dining scene between Matt Murdock and Kingpin, and
Right.
that felt that, and then the end of episode 2 was like, oh, this is old. Like they pulled this from the old Netflix story.
Right.
Like how Netflix told the story of Daredevil. Those dark, intimate scenes where it's, just two people, two philosophies coming at each other. Kind of like a Batman and Joker dynamic you got going there, but you're seeing the politics of, the vigilante side of things, and then the, kingpin criminal organization, but also becoming the mayor. Like
Right.
like both serving themselves at the end of the day.
Right.
Kind of clashing, and like what that's going to look like, because it does seem
Right.
like there's going to be a lot of political theater that's going to be in play between Kingpin being the mayor and Matt Murdock being a lawyer slash retired vigilante.
Right.
And so that's another interesting dynamic as well, is that there seems to be, and then there also seem like the relationship between vigilantes and cops, like,
Yep.
so you're getting, and then cops and the mayor, and so all of these intersections, all of these different
Right.
things are in play, and like where's Daredevil going to fit in that? I think that's
Right.
going to be a really interesting thing to see play out throughout this series.
Right. Yeah, I'm super interested in that. I'm also interested in the marriage angle between Kingpin and his wife.
Yeah,
When
that
they
was
sat
really
down
interesting.
for counseling with Matt's new girlfriend, that was exciting to me.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, this is going to get interesting here. And I enjoyed, personally, Not a fan of She-Hulk. Neither. Don't ask my wife about it. But not a fan of She-Hulk. So I'm kind of glad that they gave Matt a new love interest and somebody else to be in a relationship with. And again, we don't know if this is happening before She-Hulk or after She-Hulk. We have no knowledge of where this is taking place. Maybe some of you do out on the internet and can tell us where we're wrong. But I'm excited to see kind of where that goes and how that marriage counseling comes into play. There was a show last year, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that it was a fine show, but it brought in like this marriage counseling aspect. That dynamic really was interesting to me. And so being able to see some of that in this superhero show, I think is really cool. And to have that political angle as well. I think MCU is at its best when there's some sort of political intrigue, when there's something going on that involves heroes and the real world. And I think that's we're headed in a good direction. So
yes, and we're seeing, I mean, Kingpin has always been a character who has, I guess, gaslight himself into believing himself to be a family man or, a good person. But you do see what they have done so well from acting, storytelling, is a actual conflict in his morals right now that you never saw in the Netflix one. You would see it, but you always knew in the back of your mind, like, oh, he's still Kingpin. And he shows elements of that in these two episodes, but you also see that he is really trying to do things the right way, whatever that looks like for him. And so like going to the marriage counselor is part of it, where I feel like the last, in the Netflix series, it would have been him just, taking his anger out on other people and just going crazy, where here is like he is putting in some kind of effort. I don't know if that's the wake up call from, being shot or just, like, I mean, he was really hurt from like Echo. There is a story there of him experiencing hurt, thinking that he was doing something good for someone and realizing that he was causing a lot of harm. And this was someone that he actually did love and did see as a daughter. So I think that character arc for him has created this really interesting dynamic for this show. And I'm really curious to see like what he does, what those conversations with his wife's going to look like. What is his relationship as mayor? And, the people that he's working with, like what that's going to look like. And so, they're figuring it out.
Yep. I think it was a slow start, but a good start overall. I wanted another episode. And I think that's a good indicator of, is it good or not? Is like, I immediately went, okay, where's episode 3? And that has not happened in a very long time for me,
especially with a Disney show. Especially with with these Marvel, these MC, I guess these MCU shows,
MCU
to
shows.
be specific.
For sure. So I think that was really good. We will continue to cover Daredevil as we go along. We might do a mid-season review. We'll definitely do end-of-season finale review. So if you enjoyed hearing about Daredevil, if you love Daredevil, just keep chugging along with us. Stay connected, and we'll have more to talk about, I'm sure, because those first 2 episodes contained a lot. And can't wait to see where it goes.
One last thing before we go off this. So just like, because the ending of episode 2 was pretty crazy. So what, like, I loved it because that's like the way it was shot, the way it was, the way it all happened. That felt, and that's another reason why I feel very confident, is that felt like the old Daredevil. And I don't need it, and that's, it's like, how much of this does it need to reflect the Netflix one? Not a lot, but there is a element to it that I just think worked and everyone loved. And I think, we've talked about this before, of like, MCU, everything is big scale. And that felt, it's just him fighting 2 people in an apartment. It's messy, it's dirty, like, it's very dirty, and that it's just like, that's what made the Daredevil and Netflix so special when it came out 10 years ago. And so
I enjoyed that fight scene. It was pretty violent.
Yes, very violent.
But I was more concerned about where this leaves us and Matt's reaction to it, where again, he's trying to do the right thing and trying to play it as much by the book as somebody who's a former vigilante and a lawyer who kind of bends the rules a little bit can. But ends up in such a bad situation and seems to have so much anger to let out at
Yes.
the end of that fight.
Yes.
And so I think they've already confirmed we're going to get a season 2. So it makes me wonder if this is not going to have a redemption by the end of this season. I don't know. I have no, like, obviously I have no knowledge, but there is so much there that seems to be boiling underneath the surface for Matt. And depending on what happens politically, what happens relationally, that could lead to a really dark place. And so that's where I'm most intrigued was,
Yeah.
and I think that's what made me want episode 3 or episode 3 through 10 or however many episodes it is. I want all of them right now to see
Yeah.
where we end up. And I don't want to have to wait 3 years for season 2.
I know.
So,
Yeah, I know.
and that's high praise. Like, I'm not, again, I haven't felt that way about a TV show in quite a long time. So I think that's a testament to whatever they did to reshoot this or fix it or whatever happened behind the scenes. I think they ended up in a good spot so far. 2 episodes in, can't proclaim it as an incredible TV show yet, but the first 2 episodes really ramped us up to a good place.
Caught our attention, yes.
Yep. So, anything else to add on Daredevil?
No, I guess my last note would be like I just found the pacing of the first episode interesting. I was talking to a friend who had watched the Netflix shows with me, and we were laughing at how episode 1 from Foggy's death to a year time skip to the court case of Foggy's death to him starting his new firm to the Kingpin and him, like, their conversation in the diner to him getting a new girlfriend. That would have been season 1 and half of season 2 in the Netflix series, because the way they told story in a way that they would just elaborate on everything. Kingpin becoming mayor, like all of that would have been a whole season. So the fact that they pushed this so fast, it does seem like they have a story that they want to tell that is just completely separate from what the Netflix story was telling us. And I'm just, curious to see what that is.
Yep. Me too. Excited to see where it goes. But now we're going to move on and introduce a new segment, Audiophiles. And this is just an opportunity for us to talk about podcasts, and not our daily drivers, but just ones that we have enjoyed recently or maybe have a limited run. Because there are podcasts that are more narrative driven that have a beginning and an end, or have a season and then a second season. And so not necessarily a daily movie news thing or a sports news thing, more of a contained story form podcast. So I will kick us off here, and the podcast I've chosen is Missed Fortune. Missed Fortune is an Apple-produced podcast, so I don't think you can find it on Spotify, but it is the story about America's greatest treasure hunt. In the early 2000s, mid-2000s, Forrest Finn deposits a treasure chest somewhere in the Rocky Mountains and releases an autobiography with a poem in it that has clues to lead people to it, and he sets people off on a treasure hunt. And as we go through, so this is telling the story of kind of the start of the treasure hunt, then one treasure hunter's perspective and experience, and then kind of how it all ends up. And I will do my best not to completely spoil it, but it really turns away from treasure at a certain point, and it's about one man's quest to find acceptance and to find peace. So Forrest Finn sets this treasure hunt, everybody's going after it. The guy that the story follows mainly, his name is Daryl Seiler. And a reporter picks up his story after Daryl is arrested for hunting this treasure in Yellowstone National Park. So there are really no rules to this treasure hunt. It can be on government property, it can be on private property. Forrest just goes out there and plants the treasure and says, man, somebody may never find this. It may be 100 years before somebody finds this, and I'm okay with that. And so a reporter picks up Daryl's story and then starts treasure hunting with Daryl, because he believes that Daryl is on the right track, that he has put together enough of these clues. I think there's 9 total clues in the poem that is in this autobiography that are leading people to this treasure. Forrest Finn always claims that this treasure could have been found by a child, that the clues are easy enough and simple enough for a child to figure out, and there's no special equipment, no special skills needed to do it. Forrest is his own character. He has lots of issues and has had his own run-ins with the law in the past, but he has set people on this treasure hunt, and Daryl is going after it. So they're in Yellowstone National Park. Daryl is going in after having been arrested there and continues to go back time after time. He's driving 13 hours from Seattle, Washington to Yellowstone National Park to go after this treasure on weekends and taking time off, like not sleeping, not doing anything. He's going after this treasure. This treasure has driven him to this point. And we learn that this has become almost like an addiction. And they compare it directly to an addiction where he has lost control over his life. He ends up homeless, living in a car, living in somebody else's trailer, losing his job, losing his wife. I mean, there's many things that happen to this guy over the story. And it brings up themes of inequality, loss, addiction, vices, and it's all about this treasure. And I love a good treasure hunt, so I was hooked by the treasure hunt, but then I was in my car almost in tears learning about this guy's story. So Daryl is biracial. He grew up in a predominantly white home and never knew his father. So there's a half of him that he's never known his entire life, and his childhood is spent seeking out who his father is. And his mom refuses to tell him and seems to send him on a treasure hunt for his father throughout life. And so when the actual treasure hunt comes along, he kind of replaces that search and that hole in his life with the treasure hunt. And it drives him to that point of homelessness and being broke and devastated. But then the treasure's found. And that doesn't give away the ending, but the treasure is found, not by Daryl. And then we get to finish the journey of him finishing the treasure hunt and from his childhood of finding his father and finding his family. And so it's 9 episodes. It's not very long. And I just really enjoyed getting to hear this guy's story, to learn about some of the things that have gone on in his life, and to just really be connected to him. And through the story of an Indiana Jones-like treasure that was placed in the Rocky Mountains. It was found in 2020. You can find news articles on it and all that sort of stuff. But it was just really interesting, a really fun, well, I say fun. It's really not fun at times. But it has that, treasure hunt thing that makes you want to listen. And then it has the emotional, empathy-driven story that also drives you to listen to it. So super well-produced podcast. Loved it. I'll let you ask any questions if you have any.
I know. I'm trying to think of some good. Yeah, that's a really interesting. That's like something that needs to be like a movie. Like that's what it sounds like like a documentary style. And so is it just one, like this is just someone, like one person telling the story? Is not like different voices and things like that. It's not like a narrative, like it's not like that type of podcast. It's like this is one person telling the story.
No, so the reporter that follows Daryl goes out and interviews Forrest Finn, interviews other treasure hunters, interviews Daryl. So you hear them hiking through the snow in Yellowstone. You hear about Daryl's toes like going numb, so numb that they're afraid he's going to lose them. Like you hear all of this stuff. So it's really, it almost is like a movie where you are drawn in by their voices as well.
And this is in real time, or like is
what
it
do you
like
mean in real time?
So like they're like this person's interviewing them as they're actively
actively doing it. Yes.
Oh man. Okay.
Now he comes back. The narrator, the reporter, comes back and adds context post and helps drive the story that way. But he recorded every interaction he had on this reporting journey that was over practically 10 or 12 years of his life as a reporter. And it became his story as well, from a no-name reporter to the guy that was on reporting on the Forrest Finn treasure hunt. So it was a very well-produced podcast, and you enjoy hearing their voices and getting to know them as people.
Okay, that is real. That is really interesting. What was just like? How did you even find? Like, how did you hear about this podcast?
I was getting on to listen to another podcast. I use the Apple Podcasting app, and just getting on to listen to a podcast on my way to work one day, and it was on the main home screen, and it said Missed Fortune. And I was like, it has like a picture of a guy standing on top of a mountain with some coins falling around him. It's good cover art. And I was like, huh, what's that? And I click on it and I read, oh, treasure hunt. That sounds fun. And just jumped right in. So like the initial draw is the treasure hunt, and that's a fun part of it. But then you get connected to Daryl, and there are just so many things in my own life where I've worked with guys who struggle with addiction. I have had a long lost family member found in our family. There's some things in there that just really resonate, and then there's things that I have no experience with. And to hear it from Daryl's perspective and to hear how he has dealt with that throughout his life is very engaging and allows you to empathize even more with him as a person. So, I mean, it's a really emotion-driven story as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That is really interesting. And was this done by, was this done by a news out? Like who produced this?
So Apple Podcasts produced it.
Okay.
Outside Magazine produced it. There was another person that produced it, or another organization that produced it. So there's a couple that kind of worked together, because initially this was a news article in an Outside Magazine. In like 2015 was the initial story, and then the story continues and it comes out probably as a follow-up article, and then this podcast was, they felt, the best way to tell the story. So
nice. Interesting.
So very good podcast. Definitely worth your time to go listen and hear about the Forrest Finn treasure and Daryl and his journey as a person. So that's my Audiophile. What do you got for us?
All right, so for mine, this, I have not listened to it in a while, but I remember listening to it and enjoying it greatly because it covered a topic that I was following, very familiar with, and it's pretty, the podcast itself is not controversial, but the topic that is covering is controversial.
Okay.
And for any of you sports junkies out there, ESPN, you will know about their 30 for 30 documentary series that they do. Amazing work. Well, they then started doing 30 for 30 podcast series, and their very first one was the Clippers. It was the Clippers scandal with their previous owner, Donald Sterling, who was caught on a hot mic with his girlfriend at the time, stating that he did not want Magic Johnson at his sporting events because of the color of his skin. And the thing that I really like about the 30 for 30 series is that they always take a situation and tell a bigger story with that. So, at the time it was really just following, that like what was going to happen with, a owner making such a, very terrible statement in a league that is predominantly black, and what that was going to look like. You had Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, who had I think he was in his first year as the NBA commissioner. And it was just all of this speculation, all of this conversation. But what this story did is that it really told the whole story of Donald Sterling's tenure as the owner of the Clippers and really his mindset of having the Clippers. And it wasn't what you would expect. Like, it wasn't like this deep, nasty, dark history. It really was just the status of owning an NBA team and what that meant, and what it meant to be someone in power, having ownership of a team that was culturally different than what you aligned with. And so the way that he interacted with the players, the way that he talked to the players, the way that he would view the players, like, it just did not match the NBA. And you did see that, and that wasn't just him. I mean, he was the worst of it by far, but you did see that disconnect between ownership, fans, and players. And it kind of hit this boiling point with this one small little conversation with a owner and his girlfriend that just exploded. And just in this documentary, they interviewed the players. They interviewed, that during this time they were in the playoffs and people wanted them to lose games, like, in protest. And it's like, we didn't put this jersey on. We didn't play basketball for the sake of this guy. Like, we want to win. Like, we play because we want to win. And why would we lose because of what he said? And so there was just all these different dynamics, a lot of push to sell the team. He ended up getting banned by the league completely. Like, it was, and then like the repercussions of that, the conversation of like race and free speech, the conversations we're having today, just 9 years earlier. And so it was just really well produced. I mean, it's just like if you've seen 30 for 30 documentary series, it was just like that in a podcast format. Ramona Shelburne, she is the director, the producer. She's the one that does the voiceover for it. And then also she talks about, and my favorite part of the documentary was the part where he was forced to sell the team and how his wife kind of manipulated him, Donald Sterling, into giving her ownership of the team to then sell it. Right. And just like the scandal there, because I'm saying wife, that was not who he had the conversation with about selling, about that got him in a lot of trouble. So she was probably in a state where she, wanted some revenge, and she definitely got. So it has a little bit of everything. Like, it's controversy. There's some history there. And then it's, a nice revenge story at the end of the day as well. So, so yeah, just a simple, and I think it's like 6 or 7 episodes. It's really short, so it's easy to get through, but it's a pretty good story.
Okay, so it's not just like one episode of the 30 for 30 podcast. It's a 30 for 30 podcast on this topic that's multiple episodes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So I remember when that happened. I was not a huge basketball fan at the time, but I remember when it happened and remember kind of trying to keep up with it a little bit as we went along. So I think it would be good to go back and listen to it and to kind of be refreshed on that story a little bit and to hear the players. Because if I'm not, you've talked a lot about that basketball is a story-driven league and a player-driven league because it can get so like close up to their faces and we know who they are. Their personalities extend beyond the court. And maybe not as much at this time, but this probably definitely leads into that shift of that being something that continues. Would that be accurate for the players?
Yep. Okay. Very much so.
So I think it would be interesting to hear from them. And there's some big name players that were on that team.
Yes, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Doc Rivers was the coach, and he's like one of, a very well-known coach. So yeah, very, very interesting dynamic. They were kind of on a come up as well, like the Clippers. There was this whole Clippers and Lakers battle for the heart of LA conversation where the Clippers are never going to win that argument, but they try, and I commend them for that. But this definitely set them back a lot. So that was, just a lot of context there of like how it was just this crazy experience and like just the outcome, really testing the commissioner and how he was going to carry out the lead. And like before Adam Silver, it was David Stearns, and he was just no nonsense, but was more owner focused than player focused because the owners were the ones who had the money. So there was a lot of conversation of like, how would he address this? I think the outcome would have been the same because at the end of the day, he still understood that the players were the main thing. Like no matter who the owners were, they came to see Michael Jordan. They came to see Kobe. They came to see LeBron. So, and you have to protect that, Magic Johnson is a huge ambassador for basketball. You have to protect that kind of language being talked about him. So it was really interesting. Like seeing Adam Silver be tested like that. And I think he gained a lot of players' respect because it was what a lot of owners and people in the sports world consider to be a harsh punishment. I mean, he is banned from NBA games for life. He was forced to sell the team. Like, it was something that was just really extreme for just one. I mean, to me, it's not just one conversation, but can be debated as a private conversation. So I think it set him up for the respect and success that he has had as the NBA commissioner. Because I don't know, and you can speak to this better than me, from what I've heard, people are not very fond of like MLB's commissioner or NFL's commissioner.
Yeah.
And so that's not lately. There's been conversations, but throughout his 10, 11 years as NBA commissioner, Adam Silver definitely has a positive net rating. So
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're very accurate in saying that. Out of the major four commissioners, you have Adam Silver at the NBA, Rob Manfred for MLB, Roger Goodell for NFL, and Gary Bettman for NHL. So Adam Silver is probably the only one of the four that would have like over 50% of people say that he's doing a good job and like him.
yeah,
I would, if it was me personally, then I would go Roger Goodell, which is surprising because I don't actually think he's that great of a commissioner. But the sport keeps growing, and he's grown on me over the years. Then Gary Bettman of the NHL, he does some stupid things, but also then does some really smart things, like the Four Nations tournament in hockey, where they pitted the countries against each other like a little mini Olympics or World Cup or something. And that was really a really great decision that came from him. And then Rob Manfred of the MLB is the worst commissioner in sports. And
yep, I've heard that.
yeah, don't like where he's taking Major League Baseball at all. So anyway, that's aside from that. But Adam Silver does have a good reputation.
And that was our ranking of the sports commission.
Rank and explain, mini episode, sports commissioners. Don Garber of MLS does a pretty good job. He'd be in the middle, probably. He'd probably be number 3 if you want to throw in a fifth one. Anyway, the NBA, I think that would be really cool because I do like Ramona Shelburne as a reporter, and I've seen her a lot on ESPN. She does a good job kind of explaining things there. She has a really unique perspective and way of explaining things to where even if you're not a big basketball fan, you're going to understand what she's saying.
Yes.
And so I think that would be really cool to go back and listen to that podcast, learn about it more now that I am more of an NBA fan than I used to be, and to kind of see, looking back on it, how that's affected the league moving forward. So, man, I didn't know that they did podcasts because I do like most of the 30 for 30 stuff that they put out. So
I don't think they've done a lot. Sadly, I don't know if it's something, and I don't know if it was because of, I know they've done others since that, but I think it was a short-term thing. They didn't put a lot of investment and time into it. And so I don't think it's something that they're doing now because this was like 2019, 2020 when I heard this.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, they've done a few, and that's the one that I listened to that I just really, really enjoyed.
I think they did a TV series on Hulu called Clipped. I don't think the TV show got very good ratings about is it Donald Sterling?
The show. Oh, yes.
They did a TV
it was horrible.
show.
It was horrible.
About this.
So bad. I watched the first episode. I was like, I can't do this.
Right.
And it's just bad acting. That's really bad acting, bad storytelling. That's really what it was. And it's hard when you're telling a story with people playing as actors that you see today. And they're, and they look nothing like the person that they're imitating. It's just, it doesn't work. So it was, it stinks because, it is like Hulu. It's scandalous. It has all of those elements to it. So I can see there being a theater, a theatrical version of it for a TV show, but they just executed it as poorly as you could. So, yeah.
So I'm glad to know that there's I wouldn't recommend it either. Glad to know that there's a version of this where the story is told properly and kind of really explores it in some good ways, because it was such a terrible thing to begin with.
Yeah.
Especially for the players. I can't imagine people wanting them to lose games because of something the owner said.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like in protest. Yeah.
Right. That gives him even more power in a way of letting it affect the actual outcome of these players' lives and how they're seen on the court because of off-court comments. So, man, I'm glad that you brought that up and we were able to kind of explore it, and it's going to get added to the list for me. So
yeah, nice. Sticking to the topic of basketball and something that is positive, it's March. And that means that there's going to be madness. And we wanted to find a way to engage with our audience and just create something fun for people to participate in. And we know March Madness is basketball. it's college basketball. That's not for everybody, but I've just always found that regardless of if you're the biggest fan or if you like basketball very little, it is just a fun experiment to be a part of. The percentages, things like that. I've had friends who've played and just picked teams based on their colors and their mascots and then actually caring about the outcome of the games once they actually happen. And so for our Jumbotron series, which is where we cover sports, we're just going to just really quickly just throw in that we have created a March Madness bracket through the ESPN app for everyone to join in. There will be a prize to whoever wins. We're not disclosing what that prize is just yet, but we will make sure to add the link either in the corner in YouTube or we'll have it in our description. And then on top of that, like you won't be able to put in your bracket just yet because if you're watching this within a few days that it comes out, Selection Sunday will be this upcoming Sunday. So from that point on, going into Thursday, you'll be able to actually put in your roster, create your bracket, and compare it with everyone else.
Yep. So from March 16th to March 19th, you'll be able to place your bracket before games start on the 19th. So they start on the 19th and we'll have the bracket available. So go ahead and make your account, sign up in the app, make sure that you're ready to go because there will be that short window to put in your bracket. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to do it. It was something I always enjoyed doing with my dad on pen and paper. Now that there's an app, you can kind of join in with friends and family all around the world and have fun comparing brackets, win a cool prize. I'm super excited about this. March Madness is just a ton of fun. And even for people without basketball interest, it's just fun to have a chance. It's a treasure hunt. That's what it is. It's a treasure hunt, is putting in a bracket to see if you can win. And on the ESPN app, anyway, if you have a perfect bracket, which has never happened in the history of the March Madness tournament,
Nope.
there's a chance to win big prizes on ESPN's, but it's like winning the lottery. So good luck to everybody. We'll remind you guys again on social media throughout the week and then on the next episode to fill out your bracket. We will have our brackets on there, so if you want to prove that you have more basketball knowledge and are better than us, this is a good way to do so.
For our Outtake challenge, we are going to, so we earlier listed our top 3 entertainment mediums, and now we're going to have to pick one of those and go a whole week without it. And so my first question to you is, since we kind of are cheating the system with how we're using YouTube and podcasts,
Yep.
if we got rid of YouTube, will we still be able to just use the pie? I might be getting ahead of myself here.
Right. No, that's yeah.
Will we have to take both of those out? Or would we just have to take out the YouTube podcast section out?
That's a good question. I did not think that through when I thought of the loophole and setting the outtake this week. So that's interesting. I think that if you're going to take out YouTube, it just takes out YouTube. So there's some podcasts that I just listen to the clips of, which last week we talked about Rich Eisen. That's how I do it, is I just listen to the clips. That would be my YouTube. I have no other option on podcasting because I'm not going to filter through a 4-hour conversation. I'm just not going to do that. So you'd still have access to your podcasting app, just no YouTube. But if your podcast is exclusively on YouTube, you don't have access to it. You can't cheat the system in that way. So I think for myself, I am going to choose YouTube. I think that will be probably the harder of the 3, but it's also the one that I probably use it the most. I get on YouTube every day. I'm probably going to have to delete it off my phone to make this happen, which is going to be tough. But I'm going to choose YouTube because there's a sporting event I want to watch this week, and there's a couple movies that I want to watch this week, and a couple movies that I've been waiting to watch but probably haven't made the time for, and YouTube may be getting in the way of that. So I'm going to keep sports and keep movies. I'm going to get rid of YouTube for an entire week starting tomorrow morning and go from there.
Yeah, I absolutely cannot do takeaway TV because my wife would fight me. We have too many good shows right now to give that up for a week. So I'm not going to pick that. I was going to go with sports, but I think I'm going to join you because I'm the same way. I watch YouTube daily. It's on 24/7, And I've already been kind of conscious, like aware of this, like just like I've been on YouTube a lot lately. Like I've been consuming so much to where things are not sticking, and that has been a problem.
Yep.
So I'm now going to try to start pulling back on that. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. So YouTube.
All right. So
Bye-bye.
tomorrow morning, we're both deleting YouTube off of our phones. And we will, because I mean, that's the only way it's going to happen. I will just out of habit open up the app and then possibly get sucked into it if it has to be completely off my phone.
No, that's usually how it is for me too.
Yeah.
And so I'm right there with you.
It's gonna be a good challenge. I think we'll have a lot to report when we come back. And speaking of when we come back, next episode we are going to have our first ever guest on the pod, the graphic novel Apostle. So the graphic novel Apostle is our friend Mark, and he's going to come on and delve us into the world of the Silver Surfer. With the new Fantastic Four movie coming up, he thought it would be a great idea to bring in a graphic novel about the Silver Surfer, and we're going to do some other content surrounding the Silver Surfer as well. Talk about kind of what we see and what we're excited for in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. But we're super excited to have Mark on. Before listening to our next episode, we would encourage you to go check out his podcast, The Graphic Novel Apostle. It is not on YouTube, so we can still listen to it this week. And it should be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It should be everywhere. So go check him out. Listen to one of his episodes. Travelle, you had an episode. To tease that a little bit. So go listen to Travelle's episode. And I think I'll be making an appearance as well in the future. So we love that we get to collab with Mark on graphic novels this upcoming week.
Yeah, no, Mark is a great friend. Actually helped him play a role in helping him launch that, and it was just an awesome journey. He's a very passionate guy. We just knew he'll be the best person to start these kind of conversations, so we're really excited to have him on the pod. And I believe I'm episode 5, so if you're looking for mine, it was a good it was that episode. Listen back to it, and I was like, you know what, I should do a podcast. I just not like I could do it. Like he helped me overcome some of my own fears, and so really excited to bring him on and to have that conversation with him.
Man, it's gonna be so good. Until next time, consume wisely and stay thoughtful.
Thank you for tuning in to the Intake Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share with your friends. You can watch all of our video podcasts on YouTube at youtube.com/The Intake. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at The Intake Pod, and share your own intake experience with us via email at theintakepod@gmail.com. This podcast is produced by us, Jerome McManus and Carson Miller.